I came from a service-minded family, and they believe in, hey, what you've got, you give back, and they taught me that, and so that's what we're trying to live into and
Right.
do that. And so I know that God's going to be faithful to honor that and to bring that story out, even when weak as I am, unfaithful as I am. God's going to bring that out, I hope.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think about like listening to what you're saying about that, and I think about from a church perspective, and I think about I mean, we know there are doctrines out there, um, and that's okay. I just think that there's something to be gained from not always painting the spiritual picture that God will fix everything. And for lack of a better way of putting it, um, God is bigger than our spiritual gifts. He's bigger than our spiritual position. He's bigger than our prophetic gifts. And the word of God teaches us that. And therefore, we are still subject to him making his choices to do things however he chooses to do them or to not do them. And in that reality of the bigness of God, the enormity of God and how he thinks and processes, we actually get the opportunity, even as spiritual leaders, to help people draw closer to the Lord, even in uncertain times. And therefore, in those uncertain times, they get to become closer to the Lord, more intimately connected to the Lord, and to be able to journey in that relationship interdependently with the community, but not dependent on spiritual leaders in order to find that sweet spot with the Lord themselves. And that oftentimes comes through the messy, difficult circumstances through life, and even being able to encourage people that there is going to be another side. We can teach people, we can't teach people to say yes to this, but we can help and facilitate people going through it to understand there is some other place. And I think about that in what you're describing. Holding on to your family, I'm sure that's not easy, all the things that you guys went through. How do you think it's made you a better dad?
Well, first of all, it has made me desire very, very deeply and strongly to be a better dad. I mean, I always wanted to be.
Yeah.
But now it's like, God, I look to you to make me the father that you intend that I be, the husband that you intend that I be, the son and the physician and the friend that you intend that I be. And so I try to pray that in deep humility, because I know I am not that. But I know that God can make me that and wants me to be that.
Yeah.
And so it's first of all given me the desire, but it also has given me an empathy that I didn't have before. I consider that I was an empathetic person, but I'm much more so after the challenges with Dad. And so I try to put myself in the shoes of my daughters and my wife and other family members.
Yeah.
And see,
And your
okay,
patience.
and my patience. How
That's huge.
it's a game changer.
I'm sure.
How would they feel if I said it this way, or wait a minute, I said it another way. How did they feel because of that, and that sort of thing. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, the empathy is a big piece of it, no doubt.
Yeah. How has like, in all that we talked about and all the revelations that took place creatively with your dad, and through the journey with your dad, in what ways did that spark your own creativity? Because I know some of the things that you're doing. I'm like anxious to share one of your books that you've done. That my mom she is drawn by your book. I keep it on my. I'm just going to share with people now. This book, the Still Waters book. She is drawn to this book. I am drawn to this book. We look at the photography together. But how has all of that stimulated and inspired and encouraged everything that you're doing now?
Well, first of all, thank you for telling me that you and your mom enjoy looking at that, because that's what that book's for, is for
Yeah,
people to engage about it.
yeah.
And so that makes me very happy. But
I'll catch her even when I'm not looking, and she'll pick up the book and she just starts flipping through the book. I find it a grace moment, actually. So
I'm so glad. Well, so that taps back into Dad and God's ministry in Dad's life, because that inspired me to want to create also. I mean, I've always been, musical, and, I've enjoyed art and stuff
yeah,
like that, but I really didn't explore it very, very much in terms of the written word until after Dad's illness. I started writing poetry. I've written over 1,500 poems now, Deborah, just because of that. It helped me through in the middle of the night in dark times. I love to write poetry. I do so every week, several a week, and I get out in the woods and I take photos, nature photography. I enjoy spending time.
I love that. I love it. I love every flower. I love every body of water. I love every animal you take a picture of. It is like medicine for me.
Well, I'm honored by it. That's what it's all about. Now I laugh because I got so many pictures, but I tell people, I said, if God calls my attention to something, then I'm going to try to take a photo of it if I'm allowed to. In the woods, the good thing about it, in the woods, the good thing about it is, hey, I'm in the woods, I can take photos.
Right.
But if the light hits something a certain way, it can be the biggest blessing to see that, because you see the hand of the master artist, bringing that to your attention. And somebody can't be there. I fortunately can, because I can get out in the woods. So I try to take a photo of it, bring it back, and sometimes write a poem about it. But that has been very, very important. And when I was going through my dark times, someone who was helping me through that said, listen, you got to find your soul space, and you got to live there as much as possible. And you've got to feed that part of you. And so creativity really feeds it for me, and being in the woods and with nature. So I do a lot of that and bring it out.
Yeah, what do you think that is? Because I am building a ministry around part of this idea, and I got the bug for gardening and all of that many years ago. But as I'm on this journey now, there is great healing in God's creation, and I feel like in some ways we're missing it. It's like right there for us, and it does something. In spiritual formation, we learn about putting on the character of God and what really encompasses our soul. And our soul is encompassed by our heart and our mind and our will and our intentions. And so when the soul is really healing, and as God works on the soul, which really ultimately is about changing our character to be like his character, because it affects our choices. I think about, and I have an encounter literally when I am around his creation. And I just feel it opens me up in a way to experience him outside of the turmoil or other things. It's a different experience. What do you think? What could you offer around that, because of how much photography and poetry and all of that? I mean, what could you share with other people about the medicinal, supernatural value of that?
Well, it's profound, and I go back to the psalmist's words. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and I also know that my soul longeth, yea, fainteth for the courts of the Lord, and for me, the soul space is one room in the courts of the Lord, and so is the nature space for me. That is for me.
Yeah.
And so I feel, from a spiritual standpoint, that the silence and the immensity and the beauty in the nature spaces, it really allows God to speak to me, and I can get quiet enough myself to hear it. So that's one of the things spiritually that it does. But it also has neurological, immunological, and other benefits for us, psychological. I mean, the Japanese nature bathing experiences, there's been a lot of research on people's health being better if they are around trees and around nature spaces. This is true. This is proven.
I know it's true.
It is. Your immune system works better.
True.
Yeah. Your brain works better. Your moods are better. Your resiliency it improves from nature space. And so I'm glad to see in our in our communities now, a lot of return, even in our urban dwellings, a lot of returning to some nature spaces and therapeutic gardens. In dementia care, gardening, of course, is very important, and being around nature and getting our hands in the dirt and that sort of thing. So there are benefits holistically from being around nature.
Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar. I often check in and I read books from Dr. Perlmutter, and he talks a lot and is really kind of turning me on to other podcasts out there, because when it comes to Alzheimer's specifically, not even yet even talking about the caregiver, which we could potentially do in another conversation, you and I, but just the understanding of how the brain works and the idea of wellness and nutrition and the things that we can't solve or haven't been able to solve yet with medicine. This understanding that I hate to see us ignoring the things that God's put in front of us for lack of the balance of understanding that there's healing in that too. Sometimes things just don't look the way, like when you talked about your journey and how it shifted you, right? And so some things we expect it to look a certain way, and then God shifts us and it looks different. So there are changes that happen in the brain that, we're talking more about prevention now than we ever have. And there's data and science to support it. And so just listening to you talk about your art, talking about, one second. Sure. But hearing Perlmutter and other doctors and yourself talking about diet, exercise, all of these things and how it changes the brain. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that that our brains are plastic organs. They repair themselves. They grow new connections. They even grow new neurons, new brain cells. All of our lives, and that used to not be known. That actually possibility, but now we know that. And the therapeutic milieu that we put around ourselves is going to determine how much of that occurs. Mm-hmm. And so being in nature experiences, eating the right kinds of foods that support neuronal growth and repair. Mm-hmm. These tend to be the antioxidant type foods, the anti-inflammatory type foods, mm-hmm. fresh vegetables, berries, brightly colored and darkly colored skinned berries, fast swimming fish, like salmon and herring and all that have the omega-3s in them. Yeah. All of the whole grains, the olive oils, all of those things that we know that are in the mind diet, that's kind of a Mediterranean style diet, of course. Those are good for our brain and those support brain health. And so it's very important because, of course, we've had a lot of disappointments in looking for cures for Alzheimer's disease. Right. And recently we have been hearing in the news, of course, about potential new drugs, et cetera. They got a lot of problems, Deborah. We know that. And so there's an increasing focus on prevention. And I really think that's where the keys lie. But that also brings up, Deborah, and I've talked about this too, the disparities. That also brings, to mind people that don't have access to this kind of knowledge about these sorts of things and to these sorts of foods and to this sort of an enriching environment. Yeah. And it really brings to bear, our duty in the healthcare field and in our society, in our world societies, global society, to bring this kind of thing to the people that need it. Absolutely. And so passionate about it. And I know you are, we've talked about this. And so we got to find ways to do that. And hey,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Even when it comes to nutrition and wellness, and even what we talked about with nature and all of these things, exposing people to all of these things that are right here for the taking, that really actually not only will it affect our internal health and how we live internally, but also how we live emotionally and how we're able to adapt and cope and be hopeful about the future. All of these things are wrapped into, as far as I'm concerned, also creation. It's wrapped into us becoming better people. And so I completely agree with you. That's one of the reasons why You and I both know we're really committed and dedicated to building whatever we can and cultivating things according to God's plan for our life, but cultivating things that really speak to exposing all people to different ways of thinking, to things that they need to be better and to live better. And I feel as strongly about that as you do. I am so grateful for you, Dr. Danny. If you could impart one thing that you would share, obviously, I think we need to have another conversation, because I really want to talk about your experiences. We've given people just a great backdrop of who you are and how you came to be. But now, how do we empower people moving forward that are going through a situation like what you've gone through, like what I've gone through? How do we give people a pathway forward? How do we give people a map that is a hopeful, encouraging map, even through difficult times? So I'd like for us to talk about that moving forward. But if you could impart one thing to people today,
Right.
Well,
it's very important. And it's very important. And I guess what I would say in brief is that vulnerability, authenticity, community, and hope are four of the things that I think we should focus on. The vulnerability to see that, yes, alone, I can't accomplish anything. And I have problems and I have failures and faults, but those make me who I am. The authenticity to find in that vulnerable place your true self, which is hidden, as Thomas Merton says, in the love and mercy of God. And to bring
people back to Jesus, yeah.
To bring that forth in community of others who have also walked that, and then to be the bearers of hope for the larger community, to see it as a mission to bring that hope. Hey, we've found it, but we've walked the hard road too. And then all hold each other's hands and do it, and stretch forth a hand to those that are struggling, that's it. And that's, hey, theoretical. Tell me the nuts and bolts of how to do this. We've all got to figure out how to do that together. I mean, it's all going to be different for each community and each person. But if we find it in here, the kingdom of God within, then I think we can kind of help to bring that out, in the larger community.
I thank you so much. That is profound, incredible. I think it's also forward thinking. I don't know that this conversation will ever be over, but we can certainly continue to be dedicated to enriching people's lives in this way. And so if possible, can you share how the audience of people that we will have viewing this library can find you and some of your work? Absolutely.
So I'm all over social media. So our foundation is cognitive.org, and that's the website. You can find us there.
Say it one more time.
cognitive-dynamics.org.
Okay.
And we have a YouTube channel, Cognitive Dynamics 1. Mm-hmm. And you can see a lot of our videos in that. And I've got a Twitter feed, Daniel C. Potts, at Daniel C. Potts. You can find me there. And then on Facebook, if you just put Daniel C. Potts MD, you'll see me there. And then I'm on LinkedIn too. So just put my name in anywhere and you'll see some places where you can contact me.
What about your neurology practice?
Yeah, I'm at the VA in Tuscaloosa, the Tuscaloosa VA. I'm the only neurologist at the Tuscaloosa VA.
Oh, wow. So, I don't think I knew that. Okay. Yeah,
so I stay busy during the daytime there, and I love to help take care of veterans. I'm honored to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again. I'm just sending you off with all of God's blessings today in appreciation for just giving of yourself to people this way. And I'll be in touch. Thank you so much. And everyone, just so that you know, when the library is available, you'll be able to see whatever parts that Dr. Danny also wants to share with his following, and the same thing with conversations in the future. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Danny, for sharing with us today.
Thank you, dear friend. God bless you, Deborah.
God bless you.